tried to get me twice. So what does he mean by that? That what is twice? Is that Butler and the golf course? Or are there some other incidents that we don't know about? Or some things that maybe we heard about that seemed like a minor instance but were Iran? Anybody know what he was talking about with that? He said, I got him before he got me. They tried to get me twice. And if he wasn't so specific about the twice, I might not think about it that much, but it just immediately Butler and then the golf course. So if you know of some other instances or believe that Butler and the golf course were what he was referencing, I would be glad to hear that, but he didn't get specific. And of course, the media, the mainstream legacy media that are in the business of being a PR agent for Iran, don't want people to know really about that or even think about it because they want Iran to be portrayed as the victim of some unlawful aggression, which nothing could be further from the truth. But this is a war that's been going on since 1979, and it's about to end. And something happened today in Kuwait. I got a lot of things I want to go over. If you'd like to call in, you're welcome to do so. If you're watching live, the number is toll free no matter where you're watching, and it's pinned in the live chat, 888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. So there was a happening in Kuwait early today, a friendly fire incident, okay? U.S. jets shot down over Kuwait, an apparent friendly fire incident. I'm reading from the BBC. 3 U.S. fighter jets have been downed over Kuwait in an apparent friendly fire incident while flying in support of the U.S.-Israeli hostilities with Iran, U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM says. Okay. Friendly fire, you know, this is, and by the way, all the pilots survived, which is good. You know, sadly, in wars, there are a lot of friendly fire incidents. You know, prior to the modern era, you didn't know about them so much because you didn't have immediate reporting and things like that. But sadly, friendly fire is a very common thing. So yeah, so we had, what did they say? It was 3, yeah, 3 fighter jets shot down by Kuwait. Now, a couple things I want to say about this. Some people may say, well, wait a minute. How could they shoot down our planes? We've seen them doing all these evasive maneuvers over Tehran with the, well, they didn't expect to get fired on by our allies in Kuwait, which we liberated in the Gulf War. But the reason I share this is people out there, the anti-Israeli, anti-Semites out there, the Candace Owens types, okay? And I've heard her do, not only reference this, I've seen her do entire shows. The USS Liberty back in 1960, what year was that? Was it 67? I can't remember the year off the top of my head. A lot of the anti-Semites, like Candace Owens, spend a lot of time talking about the U.S. naval vessel, USS Liberty, which was fired upon, it was pretty bad, by Israel during their war. And it was obviously, like what happened in Kuwait today, a friendly fire incident. But, you know, the Candace Owens anti-Semite crowd, they want to turn the public against Israel because they hate Jews. So they refuse to accept that it's friendly fire. And what happened in Kuwait today in this war is an example. I mean, Kuwait, we liberated Kuwait in the Gulf War in 1991. They love us. And if you remember, after the Gulf War in Kuwait, the most popular new baby name in Kuwait the year after was George Bush, because George Bush pushed Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. Remember all of that? So those of you obsessed with the USS Liberty, oh, look, they attacked. They you know, they're our enemy. They attacked the Liberty. Well, is Kuwait our enemy now? I haven't heard any of these USS Liberty lunatics talking about this friendly fire incident today, because by their standard, Kuwait's now our enemy. Listen, when you have military operations going on at any level, whether it's in the air or on the ground, sadly, friendly fire incidents happen. Now, this instance, all 3 pilots ejected safely, and they weren't hurt, other than whatever injuries they sustained from being ejected, which has got to be a really intense experience. They're at a high rate of speed. They've been hit, and the power that comes out of that ejection seat, it can feel good, and you probably can suffer a lot of injuries from that. But the reason that these USS Liberty-obsessed anti-Semites aren't talking about this Kuwait friendly fire incident is because it doesn't fit their narrative. They're just looking for an excuse to hate on Jews. But it's luckily it turned out well, and all of the pilots ejected safely. But this war that we're in with Iran is, I know the president says a month. Any time in my life where I've seen a timeline put on a war, something always happens, because once combat begins, what happens after that is 100% completely unpredictable. And 1,000,001 things can happen between now and just the end of the week that turns the tide of everything. So, I know the president only wants to have this go on for a month, and maybe he's right. He said today that they thought it would take a month to take out the senior leadership, and they did that in the first seconds of this. So he said today at the White House, President Trump said, we are way ahead of schedule. So that's a good thing, but you got to be prepared to go on longer than that. The media are harping on this month-long thing so much because their Trump derangement syndrome, even though they don't think too much, has them thinking ahead that if we hit 31 days or 32 days, oh, look, we've gone past the month deadline. They're foreshadowing, trying to have some criticism a month from now against the president because it went 32 days or 33 days, or who knows, it might go 6 months or years. Who really knows? I mean, what we've been told for many years is that, this is what we've been told, okay, that the Iranian population is majority young, and they're not happy with the Islamic government, right? And that they want freedom. And based on what we have seen so far, that seems to be the case. What we're seeing from video around Iran shows people that are rising up. There's no doubt about it. President Trump's still telling everyone to shelter in place because the bombs are still coming, and they haven't even dropped the big one yet. So we'll get into more of that as the program goes on. But it looks like that the people of Iran seem to be happy about their liberation from the Islamic Republic. I mean, can you imagine what it must be like to live in a society like Iran? I don't have to tell you. Basically, Iran is it's like The Handmaid's Tale with burqas, right? It's a real life Handmaid's Tale is what it is. And I know liberals, they want to think that that's how Republicans are. No, we're not like that. But that's how it is in Iran. So if you've lived in a society like that your whole life, do you want to keep living that way? Probably not. Not most people, especially when they know what is going on in the rest of the world, which is like freedom, like you can, I mean, I saw a video the other day where a woman was imprisoned, beaten and imprisoned and executed because she was raped. Think about that. They didn't arrest and execute her attacker. They blamed her. I guess the guy could see her wrist or something. I guess that was too revealing. And I know a lot of times people say, well, wait a minute. I see videos all over that show people in Tehran, and I don't see any of this oppression. Yeah, I know. I've seen those too. And what's real and what's not, I don't know. I haven't been to Iran. I will never go to Iran in my life. No, I'll never go to Iran. There's just nothing I don't care what the future of Iran is in 20 years. I'm not going to go to Iran ever. Would you? No, I don't see myself ever going to Iran under any circumstances. Even if it was completely free and they were, when I mean free, I don't mean a free trip. I mean if it was completely a free westernized country in 20 years. I still would be afraid to go to Iran. That's just because what I've grown up with Iran. So I don't know if what we see in all these videos online on a normal day in Iran is normal or not. Like I do know this about Cuba. All right, you know, Cuba. Whenever you see videos in Cuba, you don't see the real Cuba, right? You see the guys driving around in the old cars from the 50s and all of that, and it looks kind of cool. See guys playing dominoes along the beach, having some Cuban coffee or smoking some Cuban cigars or something. But you don't see what the rest of Cuba is like. And in Havana, although a lot of Havana is pretty bad, what you have in Havana is not a good representation of the rest of the population. You know, in Cuba, do you know that the majority population of Cuba is not Hispanic of Spaniard descent? It's actually black, descendant of the slaves from the sugar plantations from centuries ago. So most Cubans in Cuba are black, but you would never know that by anything you see about Cuba, not just here in the United States, but when you see videos from Cuba and Havana, you don't see very many black Cubans. You see mostly people that look Hispanic, right? Latin American. But so you don't really get, so I know that for a fact. So whenever you see any YouTuber or somebody go to Cuba, you don't see what it's really like. You kind of see what the government wants you to think that it's like. And maybe that's the case in Iran. I know this about Iran. They just killed thousands of their own people, like what, 2 weeks ago, for speaking their mind against the government. And I saw the videos of the secret policemen with rifles in the street in front of cameras shooting people dead for nothing other than voicing their opinion. So the government is a terrible government. There's nothing positive out of the government of Iran. It's just a god-awful government. Right? That's just it. You know, and they have been involved in non-stop attacks on Americans since 1979. I posted an article on my X that goes through most every incident where Americans were killed by Iran since 1979, and it's a long list, and it gives you a little bit of, if you go to my X at Brian Craig Show, I posted that early this morning. You can find it there, and it gives you a little blurb on each one. I'm not going to read through them on the air. I've mentioned a few of them. You know, the barracks bombing in 1983, where over 200 Marines were killed. That was Iran. Iran trained Al-Qaeda fighters. They killed Americans. There were many over the decades. There's been many Muslims who have hijacked airplanes. Those were all backed by Iran. Iran was behind all of that. And on some of those, Americans were killed, including one in the 80s. I remember they killed a young sailor who was on an aircraft, and they tossed his dead body out the back door of the airplane on the tarmac. And if you remember, so there's incidents of this that have been going on for almost half a century, right? And there's been incidents like this that have happened all over the world from Iran. And of course, all of the terror organizations that get involved in these conflicts with Israel are all fronts for Iran. Hezbollah, all those types of groups, that's all Iran. And the Middle East has been, for my entire life, you know, when I have the time of my life where I have memories, okay, has been nonstop skirmishes or terror activity, and it's all been Iran. And my guess is that the other Middle Eastern countries that are all on our side on this against Iran, and Iran's been launching rockets at a bunch of them all the time. Every time they hit some private hotel or something in one of these Arab countries, they say, oh, then we hit the CIA quarters, CIA headquarters. Yeah, I know. CIA has massive high-rise hotels in the middle. Give me a break. But my guess is that the Muslim countries of the Middle East have been just terrified of Iran because they're psychotic and have been causing all this trouble, and they haven't had the ability to stand up to Iran because they've been so well armed and they got a lot of money, and they put a lot of money into their military, plus they're fanatics. Now that we have the United States leading these Muslim countries, President Trump is liberating the entire Middle East from Iran. And this is something that is hard for a lot of people to accept. But this is, what I'm about to tell you is not my opinion. This is fact, okay? The problems in the Middle East are not the fault of Israel. The problems in the Middle East are all the fault of Iran. All of them. That's it. Including this recent Gaza war. That is just a god-awful war. That's Iran. Why do you think those leaders were going to rise up yesterday against Israel? And Israel took them out in about 60 seconds, right? They're all dead now. Right? So that's that. So one of the things we did was take out their Navy. Big portion of it, at least. And this is CNN reporting on that. Okay. Yeah, and if you remember when Obama was president, remember when the Iranian Navy stopped those U.S. sailors on a smaller boat, and there were those terrible videos and images of U.S. sailors on their hands and knees with their hands behind their head and guns pointed at them by Iranian Marines and Iranian sailors? What a disgrace that was. That's okay? Well, that's just not going to happen anymore. You know, that attack at the music festival against Israel it wasn't even medieval. It was like prehistoric, like savage attacks. It was just not even a civilized attack what they did. I don't have to go through it. You guys know what happened. And when President Trump ended the Israeli-Gaza war, he said, he wanted to bulldoze all of Gaza, turn it into a massive tourist attraction, basically turn it into Monaco, is basically what he wanted. And he had that big event in Israel with the prime minister and all of that. And then he flew off to Cairo in Egypt to meet with all of these Muslim leaders. And remember, all the Muslim leaders, President Trump was really late because the thing in Israel went on for so long. All the Muslim leaders waited for him. And he made a lot of friends, like were the head of Syria. Qatar gave the United States the gift of that plane that they're refitting into an Air Force One. He's made friendships and alliances in places that nobody ever thought was possible. And every president that I've lived through has had all these Mideast peace plans. They don't do jack. They get guys to sign some papers. They throw a bunch of money their way, and everything's fine for a little bit of time, and then it starts again. And President Trump, this action in Iran, the main reason this happened in Iran is because they're trying to kill him, okay? That's the main reason. I mean, come on. We all know that, and that's okay. If Iran were behaving that way towards any president, any of the former presidents, I would support military action to take them all out. Wouldn't you? Absolutely. The Iraqis attempted to assassinate Bush the father, Bush 41, visiting Kuwait in the first few weeks of Clinton's first term. And he launched a major airstrike against Iraq just in response to that. Didn't hear, CNN wasn't griping about that. All right. But President Trump's made friends with all these Middle Eastern leaders and countries and made a lot of inroads. And what's happened in Iraq, although primarily it's because Iran, Primarily, this, as I said, did happen because the Iranians have been trying to kill him, and he wants to take them out so that he and his family don't have to live the rest of their lives, even after he's gone, with some vendetta coming from Iran that could even go down to his grandchildren. So that's the main reason here. And remember, that's okay. It's okay for him to want to take them out just for that. But these Middle Eastern countries have told him that they want Iran out of the way, that the Islamic Republic of Iran is causing all the problems in the Middle East, and they want to take them down and take them out, but they can't do it alone. And President Trump's doing it. I mean, this guy should get 80 Peace Prizes. I mean, he's just doing so many amazing things. Here's Marco Rubio today on Capitol Hill. Yeah, and you can see they're throwing rockets everywhere, even being blown almost out of existence like they've done. All right, now listen, if you're on hold, hang in there, okay? If you'd like to call in, the number is toll-free, 888-465-2631. If you're watching live, the number is pinned in the live chat, 888-465-2631. I want to talk about Jupiter Joe Thomas and annuities. You know, annuities are absolutely amazing. With an annuity, your investment is never at risk. No matter what happens in the financial markets, your money is fine. You won't lose anything, it's guaranteed. And you're guaranteed income each and every month for the rest of your life. Pretty good deal, huh? And I know, it's amazing. You're giving yourself a pension. And Joe Thomas offers free consultations, which you can take advantage of no matter where you are. And there's a lot of value with that free consultation. Now, Jupiter Joe Thomas has over 30 years of experience in the retirement planning business, all right? He's a financial advisor with a lot of experience. But listen to this. He's a 5-time qualifying member of the $1 Million Roundtable, which is achieved by less than 1% of all financial advisors in the world. So he's a top man in the industry, and he's offering you a free consultation, which you can do on the phone or through Zoom or in person in his office if you're local, all right? So I'm going to give you the number, give him a call. After that no-charge consultation, Joe's going to put together a custom proposal just for you based on your situation, your goals, okay? Here's his number. It is 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And if you missed the number, it's easy to find. Just go to his website, jupiterjoe.com. All right, we'll be back right after this. All right, we are back. I'm Brian. It's the Brian Craig Show. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Adam. I'm calling from Los Angeles.
All right, Los Angeles. What's on your mind?
Hi, how you doing, brother? Are you familiar with the definition of a political decoy?
I've not heard the term, but okay.
You should look it up. You should look it up and consider that all these politicians, the public figures that we get to see and vote for, they're all they're all political decoys. We don't get to vote or see the people who are pushing the buttons and pulling the strings. So these are soap operas. America is like a soap opera.
Slow down, Adam. Slow down, Adam. Okay. So
all the presidents are related, brother.
Slow down. See, I don't have to look any of this up because I've got you and you've got the knowledge. Okay. So President Trump is a political decoy who's related to the other presidents. Explain all that to me. He's the most
obvious political decoy. He's the most obvious political decoy. Nobody. How can anybody with a brain believe that this guy is anything other than a political decoy?
Well, you say that, but give me some examples about President Trump that make you think that he's this political decoy, which I don't even quite understand. I'll tell you what. Do it this. Hold on. Slow down. Do this. I don't really understand what you mean by political decoy. So use President Trump as an example and explain to me what about him fits this definition.
So, all of them. Ronald Reagan was a Hollywood actor. They're all there to give us the illusion that we get to vote for the people that are in power. But we never get to see or vote for the people in power. They're all political decoys. We're fighting and voting for actors who have no power, will have no control.
So Donald Trump, okay, so Donald Trump is not really running the country. He's not running the country.
Right, exactly.
Who is?
He's a political decoy.
Who is running the country?
We know that's a covert, brother. That's why they have the president, so we don't know who's
You don't know. Well, wait a minute. If you don't know, then how do you know? Wait a minute.
Do you know what covert means?
Wait a minute.
We're not
Excuse me.
to know.
Crazy people love to define things, right? Hold on a second here. You said that we don't know. So if you don't know who's running the country, how do you know President Trump?
Covert.
Excuse me. If you don't know who's
you know what covert means?
If you don't know who is running the country, how do you know President Trump is not running the country? Because you just told me you don't know.
I told you the political decoys are never the people who are in control.
Hey,
the people we get to see.
Can I ask you a favor? I want to ask you a favor. I want to ask you a favor. Okay? Okay, you ready? I want to ask you a favor. Could you lose my number and never call me again?
Yo, Uncle Scam is the enemy. United?
Okay, all right, go ahead. Okay, please, because he's a crazy person. Calling from Los Angeles, California. You know what they say about Los Angeles? You know what they say about California? It's the land of the fruits and the nuts. And, no, that's proof of that with that call. All right, so speaking of Los Angeles, here's a story out of the local news in Los Angeles about what's going on right now. Now, see, this is a common thing we're seeing. Have you noticed since Saturday? I've seen this all over social media. Now we're seeing it on the local ABC affiliate out of Los Angeles. People that have opposed President Trump, lifelong Democrats, vocal never-Trumpers, are praising him for this action. Just like, so many of the things President Trump is doing are being praised by people that typically don't like him, right? 83% of Hispanics support voter ID, the SAVE Act. Over 73% of African Americans support the SAVE Act, voter ID to vote, right? And now we've got all these people I've seen since Saturday that are saying, hey, listen, I don't like Trump, I'm a Democrat, but I support this. This is the most bipartisan president we've ever had. Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And by the way, this is in Los Angeles, California. There, and if you look in this crowd, I didn't see this before because I saw this video on my iPhone. I didn't notice this. There's Iranians holding up a sign with this with the Crown Prince, the son of the Shah, and the sign says "Make Iran Great Again." Isn't that something? Los Angeles, California, they're praising President Trump. They say hundreds. It looks like thousands to me, but hey, listen, at least they're reporting that this event happened. Look at this. They're holding signs. We stand with President Trump on the streets of Los Angeles. Where do they even get these signs? That's right. Yeah, and it's amazing because not only is this in California where we have this massive MAGA moment, right, which is something you never would have thought you would have seen. This is the second time this has happened, like in the last 6 weeks, because we had Venezuelans nationally doing the same thing about the liberation of their country by President Trump. President Trump has liberated the United States, right, from the southern border invasion. He's liberated us from the cartels who were sending their poison here. He's liberated Venezuela from that dictator, and now he's in the process of doing the same thing with Iran. It really is amazing. Now, Melania, First Lady Melania, she went to the United Nations today and was speaking. I love how these people on the left say that Trump and MAGA hate immigrants. I mean, Melania is an immigrant. It seems like her accent's getting heavier the longer she's first lady. Her Slovenian accent, and and of course the president himself is a first-generation American. His mother was from Scotland, and all of President Trump's children, except for Tiffany, they're the children of an immigrant. So all of Trump's children, except Tiffany, are first-generation Americans. But he hates immigrants. Give me a break. It's so stupid. Do they even hear themselves? Yeah. I mean, what a class act. As opposed to, of course, Michelle Obama. Last time I saw Michelle Obama speaking publicly, she was talking about how she tries to only patronize black-owned businesses. She's out there talking about some racially segregated personal way of life that she lives, right? I mean, it's amazing. And here you have Melania, who's out there with, being classy. I saw today something that I have been warning you about for quite a while, and it's John Fetterman. Look at this. this on X today. Senator John Fetterman is reportedly considering running for president in 2028. And this has been leaked out because they're seeing what the reaction would be. And I've been telling you guys for quite some time, beware of John Fetterman. He says all the right things that MAGA people want to hear all the time, doesn't he? But he's still a Democrat. And he has won a statewide election in a very important battleground state, Pennsylvania. And he's been talking reasonably because he's been planning on running for president. I've been telling you this. Now, I'm not saying that he could win, but I think that Fetterman could give J.D. Vance a tough run. I think he could. A lot of people relate to him. He's got Pennsylvania, possibly because he's the senator from Pennsylvania. And he's been out there saying all the right things for quite some time. Ever since he went into that hospital for like a month, he came out like he had some brain replacement surgery or something. And he's been making sense. And I've been telling you, I don't trust him. I do not trust Fetterman. And now we're getting this. And, you know, if J.D. Vance is who runs, I'm going to support J.D. Vance. And I do believe J.D. Vance can win. And I believe J.D. Vance is very, very good, by the way. Don't misunderstand me. But Marco Rubio is better. And if I had my pick, it would be Marco Rubio. And I think that's true of most MAGA people. I think most MAGA people will tell you, I love J.D. Vance. I'll support J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is very good. But I would rather it be Marco. Is that true with most of you out there? If you had to choose between Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance, who would you choose? And, you know, the thing about Marco Rubio is he has a lot of accomplishments because as Secretary of State, he's been involved in all of these things. Venezuela, something big's about to happen in Cuba, according to the president. He's working on that. He is responsible for us getting Maduro, what's going on in Iran. He's doing so much. He's accomplished so much. And he has a proven track record. And the way it works for vice presidents is vice presidents don't really do all that much. So it kind of looks like that JD doesn't do that much. He does, you know, but that there's the vice presidents don't have much of a job. And if it came between if John Fetterman somehow got the Democrat nomination for president, I would prefer that he was running against Marco, not JD. Wouldn't you? Let me know. If you're on hold, stand by. If you'd like to call in, the number is toll free, 888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll take a quick break and be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, and this, of course, is the Brian Craig Show. Thanks for tuning in. All right, let's go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Ted from Denellen.
All right, Ted, what's on your mind?
Well, I listen to you every morning, and I agree with you probably about 95% of the time. And I think what Trump did over there in Iran should have been done years ago. He's the only president that had the galls to go and do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. And he's doing it for sure, isn't he? I mean, it's been done.
Yep, and we need to stand up for ourselves. And and you know, when they chant "Death to America," no, that's not going to fly.
Well, President Trump said that they tried to kill him twice. The Ayatollah tried to kill him twice. He said that yesterday.
That's because they're intimidated by him.
I was just wondering if those times are a butler in the golf course or not. That's what I don't know. All right. All right. Thanks for the call.
I believe it is.
Well, thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right. You take care. You take care. All right. If you're on hold, hang in there. I wanted to, this really, I don't pay much attention to the Hodge twins. I really don't. I mean, I think their act is kind of stupid. Yeah, yay, yeah, hey. I mean, it's, you know, it seems stupid, doesn't it? Yeah, okay, all right, whatever. They're trying to do Diamond and Silk and in a different way. I've never been a big fan of the Hodge twins. But I saw these posts on X today, and they were screenshots of Hodge twins post on X and on Facebook. And here's one of their posts. Don't care if we lose all our followers over this war. We won't stay quiet about Americans getting sent to die for Israel. That was a post on X. It's from the Hodge twins. Here's another one. J.D. Vance knows sending Americans to the Middle East to die ain't what the base voted for. And then they said they don't like it when you say that. Then there's some Facebook posts. If you don't want your sons and daughters to fight in a Trump war, vote for Democrats in 2026. We're not in a war. It's just military strikes. Democrats, like you said, Trump was taking us to war with Venezuela. What happened there? It was no war in Venezuela. It was just a quick military operation like today. Now, and there's another one. The reason I'm sharing this is what the Hodge twins are saying on X is the complete opposite of what the Hodge twins are saying on Facebook. So here's another Facebook post. Democrats got totally blindsided when Iranian immigrants in the U.S. started dancing over Khomeini's death. Turns out people who escaped oppression don't want diplomacy with terrorists, they want results. Democrats aren't going to be able to recover from this or from the debacle at the State of the Union when they would stand for Americans or legal immigrants. They chose to stay seated for illegals. So what's going on here when they're taking this hardcore anti-Trump, anti-MAGA position on X, but they're attacking Democrats and taking the Trump position on Facebook? What's going on here with the Hodge twins? I don't quite understand this. Do they have no control over their social media? Is their social media not really them? What's going on with the Hodge twins? You know, and then you've got Nick Fuentes, who Elon Musk says is a Fed, and you got to take Elon Musk serious because he knows the people that would know this and have conversations. This is Nick Fuentes. This is after the Iranian operation began. Okay. Oh, yeah. Isn't that nice? Class act there, Nick Fuentes. You know, there's a lot of fake MAGA and things out there, and obviously Nick Fuentes is fake MAGA. But this thing with the Hodge twins, because you've got the complete opposite on Facebook than on Twitter, I don't know what to make of it. And I'd like to know if they post on their own social media at all, if other people do it, who's doing it, what's the process. There's something going on there with that is really strange. Although everyone says that that the Hodge twins have been against Trump for a long time, but I just thought that was very strange with the Facebook. Now, I began the program talking about the friendly fire incident. One of the pilots that ejected, they all ejected safely, was a female fighter pilot, and here she is. Now, she was shot down under friendly fire in Kuwait. She ejected, and she's on the ground. It looks like she's on the beach. I don't know if she's on the beach or if that's kind of a mirage. And there's a Muslim man in traditional Muslim clothing running towards her, and she's probably terrified. And, you know, the fighter pilots do have pistols. I'm surprised she didn't get a pistol out and shoot at the guy or at least hold it at him, but she's there. He's running up to her. I guess he could tell she was scared, so he's saying, "You're safe, you're safe." Yeah, so and is she the first female fighter pilot ever shot down? There's been female helicopter pilots that have been shot down and even captured. But I think this might be not that that's a historical, advancement for women that you want to brag about, but it does seem that I think she might be the first female fighter pilot to be shot down. At least the first. Yeah, that looks like desert with maybe a mirage behind. I think she might be the first U.S. female fighter pilot to be shot down. And I always got a lot of mixed feelings about that because I don't like women in these combat situations because what happens is they all get sexually assaulted when they get captured. Now, it turned out well for her because, the Kuwaitis are the good guys and they like us and all. But Americans and the helicopter pilots in both Gulf Wars that were captured, including Jessica Lynch, who was a mechanic who was captured, they all get sexually assaulted without mercy. Okay? And I know they beat up the men and everything else too. None of that's good. They all get abused. But I just don't like the idea of women in situations where they could get captured and assaulted that way. Is that sexist to be that way? I don't like women in combat situations. In the past, there's been women pilots since the Second World War, and they would do things like, we've had the helicopter pilots for a long time. They would fly different types of aircraft, not combat aircraft, but like, refueling jets and everything else. I saw another video of a female pilot who was flying an air tanker, and she was refueling fighters in the air, And those are the kind of roles that women have had for a long time. Female fighter pilots may not be exactly new, but female fighter pilots in very dangerous combat situations, I think kind of is. Did we have female fighter pilots during Operation Iraqi Freedom? No, I don't remember that happening. Most of these types of wars, though, that we've been in the last couple of decades, we have major air superiority. We have air superiority over Iran, but they do have weapons that can hit some fighter planes, some fighter jets. I just don't like women in combat situations. And, you can call me sexist all you want. I just don't care for it. Now, last week, I was talking quite a bit about Byron Donalds, who's President Trump's endorsed candidate for governor of Florida. And it's very important for Byron Donalds to become governor. And I spent quite a bit of time last week talking about how Byron Donalds hasn't been campaigning, that this third-rate opponent of his has been all over the place campaigning, who's going to run into some problems with this Iran war, the fishback guy. Well, here on this, we now have Byron Donalds out there campaigning. I got a couple things here in South Florida. This is in Marathon, which is in the Keys. I was in Marathon over the week. I went to Key West over the weekend, and Marathon's one of the biggest islands in the Keys, if not the biggest, of course, north of Key West. And here's Byron Donalds. He has a town hall that he did here, meeting and greeting in Marathon. And then he had a big event today at the Versailles restaurant in Miami. And on my YouTube channel, if you look at my vlogs on my YouTube channel, I went to this Versailles restaurant in Miami. It's a well-known Cuban restaurant / bakery. I think it's more of a bakery than a restaurant. And the reason I went there and vlogged it is when President Trump was arraigned in federal court in Miami. After the arraignment, he went right here to Versailles. So it's kind of one of those landmarks in Miami in the Cuban American community. And Byron Donalds did a big town hall there today, and it was called Ask Byron Anything. And he took questions from anybody in the audience who had questions. And that was today. So over this weekend and today, Byron Donalds has been very, very busy on the campaign trail, which is a good thing. I'm very excited about it. Now that he's actually out there campaigning, and I hope he does this a lot, because we need it. And if you look at the events these two events that he did, the marathon and one in the Keys and this event in Miami, it's a full house. It is a full house, massive people coming out to see Byron Donalds, which is a very good thing. Okay, and these are not small events, and they're in important areas. And to put himself in a place where he'll take questions from anyone, that's a pretty brave thing that he's doing. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Maoony.
Oh my goodness, we're getting the freaks and the geeks today. But Byron Donalds, if he continues to do this, he'll win the primary without any effort at all beyond doing these town halls and everything. People just need to know in the state of Florida that he is actually taking this serious and wants it and is winning, because Byron Donalds is a nightmare to the Democrats. He'll be the first black man elected governor of Florida, period. First black man elected governor of Florida, which is huge, right? And to be that and be a Republican and be a MAGA Republican and to be endorsed by President Trump, Byron Donalds, what he's doing is either setting himself up to be a senator down the road or run for president or vice president. He could find himself being J.D. Vance's running mate. He really could. He couldn't be Marco because he and Marco are from the same state, but he could be J.D. Vance's running mate. I'd be very happy with that. Florida and Ohio are both very important states, right? And you can see in Florida, the majority of the MAGA wing of the Republican Party comes from Florida. So I'm excited to see Byron Donalds out there on the campaign trail, and I'm glad that he's doing this, which is a town hall format where he's taking random questions. If you're new to my program, make sure that you subscribe on whatever platform you're tuned in on. And if you'd like to support my content, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link to my Patreon page in the description of the episode. And if you become a Patreon supporter, you get access to commercial-free editions of all my podcast episodes. You also get access to exclusive live streams and a lot of other content that I and my wife both post to Patreon that we post nowhere else. If you become a top Patreon supporter, you get your name up on the screen here on YouTube, and you get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. So the names you'll hear now are my top Patreon supporters. I want to thank SFjr, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Doris, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, Tina, David, Laura, Rob, Wes, Sue, Janice, Teresa, Irene, and Rick. These are my top Patreon supporters. Thank you for your support. And again, there's a link to my Patreon page in the description of this and every episode. Okay, there's a couple of things I wanted to share with you. Hold on, let me pull this up. This isn't the one I was looking for, but I want to play it for you. This is Canada, right? And apparently we didn't tell them that we were going to attack Iran. We didn't tell Canada. That's right. Oh, called on. Okay. Canada's called on them to do. Huh. Okay, it goes on and on. You know, all these people, it's amazing to me. What members of Congress, here we have Canada, they're all griping that they weren't told. Why would you tell all these people about a secret attack? If you start telling all these people about a secret attack, all of a sudden the attack's not that secret anymore. One of the reasons that we were able to take out not just the Ayatollah Khomeini, but about 40 of the top leadership is because they told no one. No one, right? If they would have told all these people in Congress, in Canada, do you think we would have gotten Khomeini? No. 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 We don't have to tell people. We're the United States, okay? We don't need to tell you. And we don't want to tell you because you'll leak it. Now, Jim Acosta just has lost his mind. You know, Jennings over on CNN, he's panicked over Jennings. Watch this. Acosta's freaking out. Yes. To answer your question, Jim Acosta, yes. 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 Better. Yeah, how dare we become an upside down world where people want to watch CNN? I know that's crazy, Jim Acosta, isn't it? Mm. Oh. Okay. Now, I noticed Elizabeth Hasselbeck is a guest host on The View this week. Right? Remember her, Republican girl? She used to be on The View years ago. And obviously, ABC News is toying with the idea of bringing Hasselbeck back. This is kind of an audition. See how she does. See how the audience likes it, right? Because of the... But Jim Acosta here... Jim Acosta... he is Captain Ahab, and Trump is his Moby Dick. This guy had the world in the palm of his hand at CNN. He was the White House correspondent during Trump's first term, and he sparred so much with Trump, he got promoted and got the big show. But even though he got promoted and was making bigger money than he ever made, all because of Donald Trump, by the way. Okay, if it wasn't for Donald Trump, we wouldn't even know who this guy was, Jim Acosta. I didn't know who he was before Trump made him famous during the first term. And he gets a big promotion at CNN, making big money, but his Trump derangement syndrome, he never could accept or even understand that he had made it big because of President Trump sparring with him all the time. And his Trump hatred, his Trump derangement syndrome, he just was out of control on the air. And CNN gave him this like 11 o'clock time slot, hoping he would quit, which he did. He totally self-destructed over his hatred of Trump. And I watched this video of his, and he's giving business advice and programming advice and content advice to CNN when he had everything going for him at CNN, and he blew it because he's a psychotic Trump derangement syndrome suffering idiot, and he's still that way. You know, if Jim Acosta could forget about his Trump hatred and actually report the truth about Trump, he might find himself relevant, right? You know, Don Lemon and Jim Acosta, they just can't let the Trump derangement syndrome get out of their system, and the Trump derangement suffering has been the undoing of both of these guys. Don Lemon and Jim Acosta both got the axe from CNN because they couldn't see beyond their hatred of President Trump. Now, Jake Tapper got a one-on-one interview for 9 minutes with the president today. And he went on CNN after he talked to the president and talked a little bit about it. So this is, by the way, Brennan. Why isn't Brennan in jail? Isn't this guy there? CNN's bringing Brennan on to give analysis of Trump. Isn't Brennan facing jail time for the classified docs issue? But anyway, they interrupt Brennan to bring in Tapper right after he got off the phone with the president. Ambassador. How about inmate? Okay, now isn't that something? President Trump said we haven't even started hitting them hard. They took out the supreme leader. What does he mean they haven't begun hitting him hard, right? That's what are they what's still to come after everything we've seen? Yeah, okay, we'll share it on the lead. Yeah, the lead of garbage. But so if they're planning something and have something bigger than we've seen against Iran, what could that possibly be? Well, hopefully we'll find out soon. We'll find out eventually. And since the president has this short timeline of the primary objectives, we'll find out sooner rather than later. But it seemed like they came into a pretty big bang in the beginning. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there, because I'll be back live tomorrow morning at about 6 a.m., as I am every weekday morning, taking your live calls. So those of you that are on hold, if you stay on hold, you'll be first in line when I go live tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Time. If you're new to the program, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'm here live every morning, 7 days a week, and in the afternoons as well. So if you're new, make sure you subscribe. And if you could all do me the favor of liking the video, guys, that helps a lot. When you like the video, it helps people find out about the channel that don't know about me yet. So please make sure you like the video as well as subscribe. Again, my name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I'll see you in the morning, like every weekday morning, at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, taking your calls. Thanks for tuning in. I'll talk to you tomorrow morning.